Hi, everyone, and welcome to Connect to Create. I'm Kathy Ondas with Simply Cards by Kathy, and today we're going to do some of the spotlighting technique. It's an old technique, but it's a very effective and it's an easy technique to do, and especially if you like coloring. Now, if you're new to Connect to Create, it is a collaboration between myself and a good friend and another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, Pat Fairless from Fairless Stamp and Flair. And what we do is each week we alternate to bring you a new technique to use in your paper crafting and card making. So today I have several examples to show you. So I am going to flip this camera down and get started. Okay, hopefully you can see me and hear me well. Now, if you're not familiar with the spotlighting technique, I am going to show you a quick sample of one so that you get an idea of what we're going to do. When you spotlight your card, you're taking a portion of the front of your card, and actually it is your focal point, and you color it so that it stands out from the rest of your background. So here is an example of a spotlighting technique where I used paper from Abigail Rose, and you placed a layer down on basic black, and then I colored the same portion of this design right behind it and adhered it to the card. So let me show you. And then I have several different examples done a little differently. So I have a piece of retired old designer series paper, and to be honest, I can't even remember the name of it. But I have this cut at, I believe it's 3 3/4. I guess it's 4 by 5. So what I'm going to do is I want to highlight this portion of the card. So from a scrap piece of paper, I'm going to color the portion that I want to highlight, which is this in here. And then you can use a punch, a die, whatever you want to cut it out. It can be a circle, it can be a square, and there's other ways to do the technique I'm going to show you afterwards. So I'm going to quickly color um, this flower, and we're going to punch it out, and I'm going to show you how I adhere it to the um, layer of designer series paper that it kind of goes with. Now I'm using the new color Berry Burst, and it's just really, I think it's gorgeous. I think it's a very bold color. It grabs your attention, but in the card I'm going to show you, I think it's striking. So I'm just started off with my dark Stampin' Blends marker, and then I'm just coming in with the light Berry Burst, and I'm just kind of pulling that darker Berry Burst through. And I'm not really coloring very carefully because I have so much to show you that, and I'm sure you don't want to sit here and watch me color. But you can use your Stampin' Blends. I have not tried it with my Stampin' Write markers. You might be able to use your watercolor. Now, I'm showing you using designer series paper, but let me give you some other examples of what you can do. An example, I'm going to use Cottage Rose because I'm very familiar with that one, and I know it's just retired, but it's a good example of a large floral image. You can stamp any stamped image on your layer and make a background. And then you can stamp another image on another piece of paper and color it in, and you've made your own background. So there's so many ways to do this technique. And I am going to show you one where we stamp it. Now I'm just going to do a little bit on the leaves here because I know I'm going to hit that when I cut this out, and I actually want to. I want to include some of the leaves in my focal point for my spotlighting. So let's just pull this in here. And this, I believe, is Lemon Lime Twist. I'm sorry about that. And then I'm just going to pull this on through. And now I have the card I showed you right as we started out. I cut that out with the layering circle dies. I know those are retired, but if you have them, use them. I am going to use a punch to cut mine out, and that works too. If you have your stylish shapes dies, use that. Use whatever you have, but it's easy to kind of punch it out with what you have. So I have a 2-inch punch here, and I just want to see how much it is that I need to color. So if I go up more, I guess I need to color some of these other flowers. So let's do those. I'm just going to kind of get that done here. Now, so when you do this, you want to use a paper that has, if you're using designer series paper, that has an open pattern that you can color. Now that doesn't mean it can't have any color to it. And I'm going to show you an example of that in just a few minutes with another designer series paper. So let's just bring this in, finish pulling our color through. And so you don't have to color the whole image. You just have to color the portion that you're going to punch out or die cut out for your image. And I'm going to try to use what I have colored here so we can move on. So let's see what we have here. I'm going to bring in, this is my dark lemon lolly. Okay, and let's just we're going to see if we have not quite enough, but I'm just going to punch this out anyway. Go up a little bit. All right. And then we have, we're going to finish what we have here, and we'll be done and ready to attach it. Now with the rest of the examples, I am not going to color them all, but I am going to show you how to do them. So we're going to bring this in. And like I said, I'm not doing a very good job of coloring, but I do want to give you the example of what to do. Okay. All right. I think we're going to go with that and finish just the center here. So I've cut that out. And now when I adhere this, and I'm just going to pull in any layer of cardstock here that I have for something else. When you adhere this to here, there's a couple ways you can do this. What you do is you match your image. So here's my flower. This was part of this, so I'm able to match it up. You can see I'm going to bring it up here. My leaves match. They match here, and then the beginning, I have to turn it a little bit. There we go. And then my flowers match up, so that's your highlight. Now you can lay it flat. I like to build it up. So another way to do that would be to take a piece of cardstock, cut yourself a background, and then I adhere this to my cardstock because that gives it a little bit more, it's a little bit sturdier so that I'm not using not just attaching dimensionals to designer series paper, it just will withhold a little better. So what I'm going to do is attach this to here, and they're the same size. And then let's grab some dimensionals. And I'm just going to pop those on there to show you. I'm just going to use that, and we're going to peel these off. And then we're simply going to match our design. So again, I know that this was part of the leaves. I want to make sure my centers get in here. Not quite. This is going to go here. That matches. So there we go. So there we are. So that way it's kind of raised up, it's popped up, and it catches your attention. So that's the spotlighting technique. That's one way to do it. So I'm going to show you a couple other samples. Now, I showed you this one, which is I did the same way where I popped it up. And this was cut with one of the stylish shapes dies. You can see some of the outline or stitching around it. Now here's one that I did in a circle, but I did not cut it out. I simply colored an area on my piece of designer series paper, and then I put two of the stitched circles together and cut out a almost like a frame, and then I laid the frame over the area that I cut, and that kind of highlighted or spotlighted the area of my card. So this one is raised up, this one is not, this one is. Now I want to show you, let me show you this one finished because I didn't finish it for you. Here it is with basic black and berry burst. So I think just very striking and really does catch your attention. I want to show you another way to spotlight. So let me pull this in. This is a card that I did where I cut a piece of designer series paper, and then I'm going to show you how to do this, and then I layered it on a background piece of cardstock, and you can see there's just a small space in between each of those cuts, and then I colored the center. So another way to do the spotlighting technique. So let me show you that. So here's that piece of cardstock that's 4 by 5 1/4, and then this is 3 3/4 by 5. So in order to do this type of like a triangular spotlighting technique, we are going to come in, and I have a little ruler and I have a pencil. And what I did is I measured up on my sides by 1 1/4 to 1 1/2. You get to choose how big you want that center. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a mark here, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to measure up 1 1/4, and I'm going to put a mark right here. Now I know that you can't see that very well, but I can. And when you make your mark, you'll be able to see it. Now you're going to bring in your trimmer, and I'm going to bring mine all the way down here, and you're going to line up the top corner with where you made that mark at 1 1/4 or 1 1/2 inch, however big you chose to make it go. So let's do that. Okay. Now we're ready to cut this one. So again, we're going to line up here, bring this around to where my mark is. And let me see where it is, because I did such a good job of hiding it, I can't really find it. There it is. So we're going to bring that around to here. And we're going to cut this. Okay. So let me bring this back in and show you how you would do this. So here is your piece of cardstock. You're now going to work on placement. You know that this piece, the center, is going to go right here in the middle. And you want to make sure these are squared up and that they're pretty even all the way around. So I'm just going to bring that over a little bit. And you do have to work with it a little bit, but it really is easy. And then you bring in this one. And you're able to line that up and just bring that down just a little bit. And so you get the gist of it. You're going to kind of make your picture, but just with a little, you're going to put it back together. It's like putting a puzzle together, but just with a little bit of space in between each one. And then you're going to color the center. So my recommendation is you color this before you put it on your layer, which is what I did here. And then go ahead and put your puzzle back together so you have your piece of designer series paper, just like you do here. Now here I did mount it on early espresso instead of crumb cake, and here I reversed it. So that's another way to do your spotlighting. Okay, so one more way I want to show you is with your stamps. So let me bring in, I'm going to use Quiet Meadow. Okay, and I'm going to bring in a piece of, 2 pieces of cardstock here that I have. And my cardstock disappeared. Well, I'm going to show you with this. So you would cut what you want here. So I would cut, here I've cut 2 inches by 5 1/4. And I use this, I stamped the stamp as my background. So let's go ahead and we're going to do that. And I'm going to bring my stamp in. And again, this is just for demonstration. So I'm going to stamp my image. And then I'm going to re-ink. I'm just re-inking the top because I want to use, let me pull this in, this flower for my spotlighting. So I'm going to pull this in and stamp off. Whoops. All right, that looks good. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and color. And I am going to use the Lemon Lolly, since we have that out from before. And I'm just going to color this in. And again, kind of quickly. And then I use, if you have a punch or if you have a die, feel free to use either one of those. I have, I believe, a 1 1/4 inch punch that is retired, but you have your stylish shapes. You have your, if you have the stitched circles, the layering stitch circle dies, you can use those. Use what you have. So I'm going to color a little bit of the leaves here because I know I'm going to pick that up when I punch this out. Okay. And I think we better color a little bit of this other yellow flower too. Let's do that. So it's a really easy technique to do, but it really is limitless because if you use stamps that you have or designer series paper, you can do so much with it. So I'm going to come in here. This is a 1¼ inch punch, and I am going to punch right there. All right. And then you would come in and you could put dimensionals on or glue it down depending on what your preference was. Mine would be to put the dimensionals on, and you simply fit it to your stamp, and then you have a highlighted front for your card. And here's the one that I did. Pretty much white with the gray granite and some ribbon. So let me pull all of these samples back in and show you so that you can again see the different ways that you can do them. So I'm going to pull this in this one. I'm just kind of overlaying them so you can see them. And then we have the one with the center. So lots of ways to do the spotlighting technique. So let me bring you back to me. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I certainly enjoyed doing it for you. And I hope it gave you some inspiration and some ideas for using designer series paper, new or retired, and even your stamps, how to use them a little bit differently. Pat will be back with you next week with a whole new video, and I don't know what her technique is, but whatever it is, it's always good. So I hope you have a great week. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll be back with you next week for Connect to Create.